No, I have to do a disclaimer here. Becky, where's my intro?
I gave it to you. I have this.
This speech requires a bit of a disclaimer before I can go on. However,
Technical timeout on the
That's
field.
okay.
This will be a 30-second.
it's made the round. Madam Timer, it's not time to start this yet. I will tell you when it is. Thank you very much. Before I begin, I would like to tell you that I am actually just doing my 6th speech. It is titled The Challenge of the Big C, a family member's point of view when it comes to experiencing cancer. This speech is Project 10 in the Leadership Communication Manual, Inspire Your Audience. I'm currently involved in a program called Seek and Speak Your Story. It's facilitated by Joe Ranney and the Moffitt Cancer Center's Hope Lodge. Participants in that particular program that I'm involved in are encouraged to tell their inspiring cancer-related story to family members, caregivers, and cancer patients who are staying at Hope Lodge while they're undergoing treatment. My presentation tonight is a very rough draft form. I encourage you to give me tough, constructive criticism. I want feedback that will help me improve my story, help me flesh it out before I deliver it at the Hope Lodge in October. And this will take about 10 to 12 minutes. Thank you. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. My story started back in 1986 in northern Minnesota. It was a very cold, blustery day. I remember it well. I had just arrived home from work. The sun was setting and the clouds were promising more snow to fall. I had just arrived in, kicked off my snow boots, and heard the telephone ring. My husband was out of town, my son was at basketball practice, and my daughter was with a friend. So I expected a phone call, and I expected one from a very happy voice. I picked up the phone, and with a cheery hello, I heard my mother's broken voice instead. Dad had just passed away. I knew that my dad had cancer, but I didn't know it would take him so quickly. The big C, the big bad red C. Dad lived in northern Georgia, and I didn't have the opportunity to go and see him before he passed away. I never got a chance to hold him. I never got a chance to sit with him. I never got the chance to tell him one more time that I loved him. I never got a chance to look in his warm brown eyes and tell him goodbye. In the twink of an eye, Dad was gone. Fast forward to the fall of 2005. Almost 20 years after my dad passed away, my sister Donna was diagnosed with the same big C, the same cancer that my dad died of. I felt helpless and hopeless when I heard that diagnosis. It conjured up memories of my dad, images, and regretful moments that I knew that I was not able to go and help him. I decided then and there to take that big C and turn it into something useful and positive, something that I could use to help my sister. But first, I cried. And then I put that behind me. I had to help my sister. I had to offer comfort, and I had to offer compassion. But more, I knew I needed to take charge. Learning that she had to have surgery, my sister decided to have that surgery in a small general hospital near her home. But for several years, I had worked at Moffitt Cancer Center in the surgery department, and I knew the benefits of being cared for in a nationally renowned cancer research facility. I also knew the very doctor that needed to take care of Donna. So I counseled Donna, and I convinced her to see a doctor at H. Lee Moffitt Cancer Center. Donna was frightened, she was uncertain, and she was very, very sick. But she was willing to see the doctor at Moffitt, but she had no idea how to go about the process. So that became my challenge. I called a dear friend who works at Moffitt and asked her for some phone numbers and some names. And to make a very long story short, I succeeded in getting an appointment with the very doctor that I knew could take care of Donna, and she was soon scheduled for surgery. The Sunday before Donna's surgery, I gathered together a large group of family members and friends. We wanted to celebrate Donna's life. We laughed, we joked, we wept, we hugged, we prayed. And we commiserated with Donna as she slowly drank a gallon of vile-tasting liquid that she needed in preparation of her surgery. As badly as she felt, she grinned as she pretended that she was drinking fine wine from a crystal goblet. When Donna's surgery was over, and after many days in the hospital, she was sent home to recuperate before she could start a full round of chemotherapy. Donna had retired from the University of South Florida, but never one to be inactive. She had taken on the job of handyman, or handywoman. She handled hammers and saws, screws and screwdrivers and drills better than any man I know. And her house reflected that. You've heard of the cobbler whose children had no shoes? Well, Donna's house was a ton of unfinished projects. She was weak in body and weak in soul as she began her recuperation. And as some of you here know, could barely get out of bed. But suddenly she had an inexplicable need to get these unfinished projects finished. She became obsessed with it, but there was nothing she could do. I did what I could to calm her and to convince her that we would get the help that she needed. I called family members and friends once again, and I coordinated weekends where we would all gather at Donna's house, and we would get together and finish some of these unfinished projects. This went on for several months, and I learned that in caring for Donna, things that I thought were important in my life became less important. My weekends had always been very full. My grandchildren, my church, my singing group, even vegging in front of the TV. But that ended when I vowed to help Donna in ways that I had never been able to care for my dad. Weeks turned into months, and my weekend trips to Donna began to be less frequent. Though her projects weren't finished, enough had been done that Donna and I began to breathe a little easier. Donna was getting chemo a couple of times a week, sometimes tolerating it well, sometimes not tolerating at all. She had lost a lot of weight, dropping from 120 to 86 pounds. What hair she had left had somehow turned white overnight. Her normally sparkly blue eyes had a dull, vacant look. Her voice was weak, her body weaker. One day I received a call from Donna's daughter, Lori. "Sue, come quick, Mom is very sick and I don't know what to do." I knew that Donna had an upper respiratory infection at that time, but I didn't realize how it had escalated. I arrived at Donna's house and I found her lethargic and unresponsive. To be honest, I wasn't sure she was alive until I heard her moan. Lori was too upset and too emotionally distraught to know what to do, and she asked me to take over. I grabbed the phone and I called 911. When the paramedics arrived and started fluids and oxygen, Donna slowly and wearily opened her eyes and looked up at the paramedics and said, "What are you doing here?" "We're here to take you to the hospital." No, I'm fine. I don't need to go to the hospital." I was at the foot of the bed and I grabbed her foot and I wiggled her toes. She looked down at the foot of the bed and she went, "Uh-oh, I've been outnumbered." And I said, "Yes, Donna, you are sick. You are going to the hospital." And as it turned out, she had pneumonia and she was very sick. It was touch and go for several days. But she rallied, and after 2 weeks, the doctors sent her home. Back home once again, and feeling rather spunky, Donna decided to work on another incomplete project, one that required climbing a ladder. And you guessed it, in her weakened condition, she fell off the ladder, knocked herself out, and ended back in the hospital once again. She wasn't there very long. She was real feisty, and the doctors sent her home to begin more recuperation. Her next setback was a blood clot. One more time, into the hospital. She had to have medications and minor surgery. But the doctor said, Donna, you're doing all right. Go on home and continue to get better. Ladies and gentlemen, 10 months ago, the doctors told me that Donna had an inoperable tumor and that she would be dead in 6 months. Last Saturday, just 1 week ago, there was a huge family gathering, a gathering to celebrate Donna's life. It's been a constant struggle for Donna, but she has gained weight, she has gained strength, and best of all, she has learned that her tumor has shrunk 75%. She nearly glowed when she arrived at the house. She was wearing a coral-colored dress that gave a soft peach blush to her cheeks. Her blue eyes sparkled as she smiled, and her white hair had thickened somewhat and had a healthy sheen to it. She looked like someone who was fighting and winning. I'm not sure if I had much to do with her health, but I do think that by taking that dreaded C and turning it into something useful and positive, it allows me to think that I helped turn the tide in her illness. In the last 10 months, I have taken that dreaded C, and I have used it in the care of my sister. I comforted, I had compassion, I took charge, I convinced, I took the challenge, I made calls, I coordinated, I commiserated, and I celebrated, as most recently, my sister, with tears of joy and happiness in her eyes, rewarded me with a wonderful warm hug and a big thank you.